All right. Well, welcome. If you're a replayer, don't forget you can still participate. You can tap on the screen for hearts. You can share the broadcast. You can follow me on Twitter or Snapchat at joannazarach and ask me questions there. So, let's see if I can. Hello for anybody who's joining live. And just a quick introduction for anybody that's new. My name is Joanna Zarach, and I do a daily Money Habits broadcast. It's 7 days a week at 10 a.m. Central Time. So the reason I do this broadcast is that I really, for a very long time now, I've been thinking about how is it that I can help other people achieve their goals. And when it comes to finances, money, and numbers, that's one of my strengths. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do is convey all the things that I've learned for over the last 20 years when it comes to money management, investing, and I found that money habits and getting good habits around your money is one of the biggest determinants. And so some of those habits are habits that you do every day. So things that you practice. You practice managing your money. One of those things is just kind of setting some rules in place or some priorities to say, look, I'm always going to do the following things. You know, year over year, I'm going to do these things no matter what. I'm going to figure out a way to get these financial goals in place. And sometimes that, sometimes you start small, but just to like set your mind to it that you're actually going to do it and you take action. If you take financial action or action associated with finances on a regular basis, and again, I encourage some things for you guys to do every day to develop a good habit, because if you do it every day, it doesn't seem like you don't have to make a choice. This is why a lot of people talk about developing good habits and developing rules, whether you're trying to achieve things in work, in life, in your health. If you do it every day, it means you don't have to make a decision about it. So that's why I encourage money habits for everybody, and I talk a lot about them. So, well, thanks for joining. Goodbye. And for those, so I talk about money habits every day, and then I do a couple broadcasts in the afternoon, in the evenings on Tuesdays and Fridays, where I dived into a financial topic a little bit deeper. So what do I want to talk about today? One of the things that I've seen, it was in a couple groups talking about financial freedom, and what does it mean to people, right? And I think that it's really important to kind of understand what it means to you. And I think there's several factors that go into play to achieve financial freedom. And I think a lot of people see financial freedom as like unlimited amount of money. And that's not realistic. So one of the things is that like that's not realistic. Like in the global scheme of things, that is not a realistic goal for most people to have unlimited amount of money. One of the things that starts happening is as you achieve higher and higher level in your professional career, and maybe or higher level of success, is you get more and more money, you get used to it. You get used to that lifestyle, and all of a sudden the equation changes. So when your equation of what is enough keeps changing, at some point you realize that you're not going to have enough. So you need to keep going, right? So you become accustomed to whatever level of money you have, right? And as we know, the research shows that over $75,000 a year in the US, you don't actually get any additional benefit in terms of, that covers all your basic needs. And after that, it's just like kind of a luxury, and you may not even get additional like happiness or satisfaction. So one of the things about the equation for financial freedom is to really look into it and look and think about it for yourself, so that you can say, what does it mean to me, and how am I going to Constantinople? I don't know. It's like a call out. And what it's going to mean to you. So I encourage everybody to do the equation for themselves, right? It's got several variables. And so, when I talk about money and achieving financial freedom and building wealth, they're really the 5 factors that will impact it. And I want to talk about some of them in a little bit more detail. So the 5 factors that really impact your wealth are your income level, taxation, your investing knowledge, your big purchases, where you allocate your money, and risk. But the things for the equation for financial freedom that are really important is, first of all, your income. Your income is going to really determine whether or not you can achieve financial freedom. Because if your if you're making just enough income to cover all your basics, that's going to be very, very difficult. Now, it's not to say that you can't save money at any income level. You can, right? I saved money when I was a graduate student, when I was making, $16,000 a year, but maybe I was saving a couple $1,000s, right? So you can save, and you should save at every single income level. But if you're not able, hi, how are you? If you're not able to get to a higher level of income and figure out how to do that, and again, it's over time, right? You don't have to just come out of the gate and be making a ton of money. But what you do need to realize is that you need to aspire to figure out how to increase your income through various sources, right? So there's a lot of resources available to people these days to kind of try to get better at their skill. Maybe once they learn a certain set of skills, to say, can I go out on my own and start a business? Or can I supplement my main income with other sources of income? So income and the income piece is super critical, right? The next thing it comes that most people, what they do when they get more income, they just spend it, right? They upgrade their lifestyle. So what you need to do is get disciplined about the savings rate. So that's why if you save at any income, so if you manage to save $1,000 on, $25,000 salary, then when you increase your income, you need to be increasing your overall savings, but your rate might be the same, right? So I encourage people like minimum 10% savings rate, but really to achieve wealth, you should be aiming for 30% savings rate. Why? Because you need to have that savings early on, because one of the biggest components of wealth building is time, right? Over time, and this is what, over a lifetime, less. So here's my philosophy on taxes. I think you should have, so this is why you would take out less out of your taxes. So a lot of people like the tax, the big refund, because they lack discipline. And so one of the things that I thought about, it's like you have to have the discipline. So if you are going to have your employer take out less out of your taxes, make sure you have a plan for that extra money that's going to hit your paycheck. If you don't have a plan ahead of time, like whether you're paying off debt or whether you're starting on the investing path, because I see a lot of people are what I call pre-investing. You need to have a plan for that money. If it's going to be an extra $100, know where that extra $100 is going to go for you. And so it doesn't just show up and kind of leave your checking account. If you don't have the discipline, what's going to happen is you end up spending it because it just doesn't go anywhere. And so some people, when they get the big tax refund, they feel like that's more money that they can do something with. So then they allocate some of it towards financial goals. Ultimately, it's better for you if you are paying down debt, especially double-digit debt, to have that money up front in each of your paychecks, so you can increase your W-4. I tell you the rule of thumb that I kind of come up with, and every extra exemption on your W-4 is going to be about $1,000 less in your refund. So if you're getting multiple $1,000 refunds, you really need to increase your W-4 exemption. And if you're just like concerned about it, that you're going to owe taxes, by the way, there's nothing wrong with owing taxes in April, if it's just a little bit, because that means that you didn't prepay, right? We're prepaying taxes. There's no reason to do it, but you have to have the discipline, right? So I only advise it for people who are ready to take the discipline and take action and plan out where that extra income, that extra cash flow is going to go to. So that way I would do it. I think if you're still in kind of chaos, if you're just like in freewheeling mode, then I'd be like, well, your tax refund is going to be smaller, and maybe if you have the discipline at that point to do something with a bigger chunk of money, then I would say, well, maybe wait. But I don't really think that like, you should free up your cash flow because you need to be more on top of your money. And then if you were paying off credit card debt, for sure, you need to be paying that off sooner. So if it's an extra $100 every paycheck or a couple hundred, extra $100 every paycheck, make sure you're putting it towards that credit card debt. So have a money plan, and then I would for sure lower your how much taxes is being withheld so you can utilize that money. But the time, and thanks for asking the question. I'm always happy to answer them. Time is like one of the biggest factors that people forget about. Like if you put in, I think recently I did a calculation my friend asked me about. She's like, I read somewhere that if you put in $5,000 at birth, into an investing account for a child, at 65 years old, it'll be $1 million. And I said, okay, let's look into it and see what assumptions are. So at 8.5% tax-free, if your money goes tax-free, $5,000 will be $1 million at 65. If it's 8%, 8.5%, which is like an above average market return, So if you bought it in a low market period, it's probably more likely. So timing has to do with something with it. But the fact is, if you can start with a bunch of money, especially for your children, like I want to break the intergenerational struggle when it comes to money, and you learn most of your financial skills and mindsets from your parents and from your family. So if your family struggled and you're still struggling, like really, and you have children and you don't want them to struggle, really start addressing your own behavior and your own money beliefs sooner rather than later. So time is a huge factor in wealth building, and obviously taxes. Hello, how are you? And the rate of return, of course. And the reason I talk about rate of return, because people don't realize that the market rate and what they're getting, if their money is in a 401k or under a financial advisor, there's a lot of fees that come out of it. So what the market is returning is not what you're seeing. That's why I advocate for people to at some point take control over their investments and learn enough where they can just administer it. And I'm not saying to be an expert in trading or stock analysis, but to believe that the mutual funds that are low cost are their best bet because they're going to produce a higher return for you, right? So performance of the mutual fund or performance of stocks and how much you get to keep. Sometimes there's a middleman or like 5 middlemen in between, and each one takes a little bit, and all of a sudden you're at 6% rate of return for you. And so rate of return really matters when it comes to the accumulation, right? So I see, like, if you're just starting out, right? If you weren't born into intergenerational wealth, or your parents didn't plan, didn't have the same mindset or the opportunities, and you're starting, time is on your side, and the rate of return is really important for you to build up. Because what you want to get is to a point where you have built up enough wealth. Now, the other part of the equation of financial freedom. Because what happens is a lot of people, again, your expectation of what you need and what you need to access is a huge, huge factor of whether or not you can achieve financial freedom. If your lifestyle requires $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 to maintain it every year, that is a really, really big pile of money to be living off of just to maintain. And so this kind of unlimited, I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, like you need to start putting a number around it, right? Like, so do you want to take like $5,000-$10,000 vacations every year? Like, what is it that you require, and what is it that you're really getting out of? Because I think people overpay for a lot of experiences that can be acquired at a lower cost, right? If you want to like experience the world, like have a job that allows you to work remotely and then travel and like house sit, right? Like there are many different solution sets for what you can do. But the expectation of what you need is one of the biggest pieces on the other side of the equation, right? So once you like look at it and say, what's it going to take for me to accumulate, whatever the number is. And I think I read some personal finance bloggers, and they say, look, at kind of the happiness rate, $75,000 to $100,000, if you include taxation and stuff, if you get over $2 million in accumulated wealth, investable wealth, not the house you live in, not the cars you own, things that are actually making a return, then it's going to be really hard for you to ever run out of that money if you live at the $75,000 to $100,000 level, right? And so I think it's 2.5. And so, but if you're going to live at the 400,000 level, you're going to have to multiply it by 4, right? You're going to have to be more like a 10 million. And that's really hard to accumulate, early on in life when you're starting from zero, right? So, and then a lot of people just like hit a high income, they hit on a high earnings jackpot, I guess, whether it's the really successful salesperson or the really, they climbed up in corporate, whatever it is, they're commanding that type of income, earned income, and then they kind of get accustomed to that, and they surround themselves with people who also have that same ability to spend. I'm familiar with Dave Ramsey. I know that his stuff is effective for some people. I'm not a fan of everything he teaches. So, like I get, he's got a parental, like a patronizing approach, be like, oh, you're not allowed to use credit cards. Like, I'm more of a discipline. And the Simple Dollar Blog, I haven't looked at it, but I'll check it out. I like Mr. Money Mustache. I think that there's a blend of like wealth building and a bit of frugality in terms of the expectation. Like, you can have I value my time. I value the freedom of my time, and I know that not everybody agrees with my viewpoint, but I want to do what I want with my time, including work, right? Like I still work. I don't aspire to retire, I guess. I just want to have a sustainable lifestyle where I feel like I have control over my work and my time, and also just can do whatever I want. But expectation is a huge piece of the other part of the equation. Time, again, how much time do you need, and what are you going to do with your time, right? A lot of people reach financial freedom, and then they're like, oh, now I can do what I want with my time. Sometimes you take more risk in terms of career, or you are willing to invest a bit more in yourself and your development to learn new skill sets, because you're not relying on spending 40 to 60 hours a week just earning an income just to maintain your lifestyle. The rate of return still matters, right? When you have accumulated, I know people who've accumulated a lot of money, but they're not getting a good return. Why? Because there's like the 5 middlemen that are collecting it. Because the minute you accumulate wealth, you've got a lot of people like wanting to advise you and promising you things that they can't really promise, but that's the sales technique. Because they want to take 1 to 2% of the wealth you've accumulated, and you will continue to grow that wealth just at a slower rate. That's why I'm a big fan of people learning how to do investing. Investing can be very basic, right? You just need to use some basic rules and find a low cost provider, which I use Vanguard. I always have. They are the market leader in low cost mutual funds. The other thing is reality. Sometimes what happens is you can't predict the future, and reality can take a really big bite out of your financial freedom. So always have, that's why I don't aspire to retire. Vanguard is awesome, right? I was a Vanguard investor when I was 22, and I was like, okay, I'm going to open my first IRA. I just called Vanguard, right? Like back when the World Wide Web wasn't quite as effective, like they didn't have the online application, or maybe they had a PDF file or something. They were just starting with it. They haven't improved their website much in 20 years, I just want to say. There are other places that are more user-friendly in terms of the experience, but they're very, very effective. Why? Because it's worth whatever hassle it is to deal with their system, because they have such low fees. I mean, they're incredibly low. Like whenever I look at any other funds, I'm like, why? Because that rate of return, so that $5,000 at birth that will make $1 million at 8.5%, it'll make $1 million at 65. At 8%, it'll make $1 million at 69. It's an extra 4 years. Which is good, right? Like, and so you may, at some point you do want to diversify, right? That depends on, again, what is your expectation of income in the future, and how are you protecting against the loss of income as well? But it's right. The Vanguard's done so well for me, because again, I get to keep more of my return, right? There's no money going to the mutual fund that's higher cost. There's none of my money going to the financial advisor. And all of a sudden, I'm accelerating. You can accelerate your wealth building when you get to keep more of your return and reinvest it. So the rate of return, sort of on the other side of financial freedom, matters a lot. And I do think that once people kind of get locked into the financial advisory, the high fee mutual funds, it's really hard to transition out. That's why I want people to get started in the right direction and say, look, you build up your financial muscle and you start investing, you will do better for yourself in the long term. It's dipped, it's going, but it's like, it's a buying opportunity, right? I mean, it's like the best time to have bought into the stock market was during the crash, like last part of 2008 or 2009. If you have the fortitude and you have the income and your like all of these things, if you're not spending all the money, if you didn't, lose a job, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can't afford to invest. It's like, you can't afford not to. Like, the market's gone so crazy since then, right? It's tripled. Like, how many opportunities do we have to triple our money in 5 years, right? In 5 years, because it was like market peaked in like 2013, 2014, and it's been kind of flatty. And it's not done that great, because people got back in. They're like, oh, the market, it's doing great. It's like, no, you always need to get in the market when everyone else is freaking out. But you need to have that income, right? You need to figure out what your income sources are besides just investment. But the rate of return on the other side of financial freedom is going to make a huge difference. And then reality, right? Sometimes things happen in our lives that are outside of our control. And again, when you diversify your income streams, you're going to have some for your 457. Great. that's fantastic. I have an individual, like I always tell, the best way to do is plan out how you can become a business owner, a solopreneur of some sort. Basically, how do you have income coming in that you can just claim that's a one-person business, or you and your spouse, and then set up an individual 401k, because an individual 401k is going to give you such a huge access to tax-free growth, tax deferred. You can do a combination of a Roth employee contribution and the tax-deductible employer contribution. I would highly recommend a path, right? Like a path where even a portion of your income comes from some sort of self-employment, where you can open an individual 401k. But that's an advanced topic, right? Most people are still struggling they're still struggling with double-digit debt, or they just don't have any investments. They haven't opened an IRA, and I'm like, these are the basics you need to cover, because once you do that, and over time you follow kind of the habit of always maxing out your retirement accounts at the whatever the federal limit is for either tax exemption or the Roth contribution, and you qualify for those. Those are really, really powerful vehicles because it's tax protected, right? Like every time you make an investment, the rate of return is impacted by taxes, because taxes reduce your rate of return. So you need to be well versed in, again, some of the basic concepts. You don't have to be a tax professional. You don't have to be an investment professional, but you need to take the time to understand how it impacts and use your numbers, right? Use your own thing. So until you take it out. Well, that's why I diversify with the Roth and and we don't know what the tax laws are going to be, right, in the future. So the thing is, even at that point, it's going to be taxed at a lower, right? There's a lot of complexity in the tax code. And again, that's why, I say do the Roth portion if you can, and then some of the traditional. But if you can grow your money tax deferred, or tax-free when it comes to Roth. One of the things that I'm researching right now, I'm obsessed over this, is children's, if you have a business, and again, it doesn't have to be full-time employment. I'm not saying everybody quit your jobs and start a business. It's not everybody's in a position to do that. But start some side business, because you can employ your children in your side business when they're old enough, and now they can generate earned income, and now you can put into their Roth IRAs even before they're 18, and think about the power of that. So that's Roth. That was not, they don't have tax because they're low earners, and then it grows tax-free, and it's never taxed, even when you take it out, because it's Roth, right? So there are these interesting tax vehicles when, if you think about it, you're like, wait a minute, does that work for real? And like, if you never ask yourself, if you never examine it, and you go, why isn't everybody else doing it? Well, most people are still paying double-digit interest credit cards. They're not conscious enough of that, because they haven't gotten to that level where they're like, oh my God, I don't want to have these investments being taxed now, because the compounding it'll grow faster. And yes, you will owe tax on some of those tax deferred accounts when you come out. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with dealing with tax when I'm in the next 30 years or so. And then that's why I'm doing Roth strategies as well. And I want to set my children up as well. Because again, break the cycle of intergenerational struggle, and instead create intergenerational wealth, right, and intergenerational stability. So that's the idea. So just to sum up the equation for financial freedom, on one side, it's income, your income level, your savings rate, time, and rate of return. And all of these things will come into equation when, where you're going to get to, right? Your accumulation stage. And then the way you've achieved financial freedom is a combination of your expectation, is what level of lifestyle you need, how much time you have left, right? That's both not just yours, but are you trying to plan for a legacy for your family? The rate of return that you get past that point, and as well as reality can really hit, and you need to plan for that. So the reality may need to make some adjustments, but you want to give yourself, I'm of a feeling give yourself more than enough, right? Give yourself more runway. And again, as you get more and more time away from just employment, where you're kind of in the mindset of I'm going to work, and when I'm done working, I don't want to think about anything else. If you allow yourself to be a bit creative and put a little bit more effort into it, into building some business on the side, or creating something that other people are willing to pay for, something of value, then I think you're gonna put yourself in a better position. But if you never think about these things, then you're never going to start you're not going to learn, and you're going to take action that's going to put you in the right direction. And that's the thing that I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to get people to become more aware, and just really stop and say, well, what is it that you're doing? Like, let's look at your equation, right? Whatever people's current situation is, to me, it's a multivariable equation. I'm like, let's look at how you're doing, and kind of tell them, look, if you're paying double-digit interest, you're going to have a really, really hard time in life, because your ability to build, to get to a point where you have any sort of financial net worth is zero. Like, the probability of you getting out ahead is so minuscule. And it has to do with your expectation. And again, a lot of people, one of the messages they need to get is you need to increase your income without increasing your spending. Because if you're in double-digit interest debt, that's what's happened, is you've been increasing your spending. You've been overspending and under-earning, and you need to change that equation. So anyway, thanks to anybody who joined. Thank you for the engagement, Andre. And I'm here every day, 7 days a week, at 10 a.m. On Central Time, and I just talk about money habits. Just like it's not rocket science. What's math? So it's a bit of math, but there are just things that I share. Here's the things that I do, how I think about money, what I think, why it makes a difference, and then we just do, like, I try to get people to be more aware about, like, what their financial standing is and take more control. I just really think it's like putting in an effort and having some discipline, and people would be struggling less with money, which is one of the biggest sources of anxiety for people, right? So if you don't address it, you're going to continue to suffer from anxiety around it. So anyway, you can follow me on here. I don't have podcasts yet, so I literally started in social media like last fall in October, and I went on Periscope because I found the video format, like the public speaking, I'm just very at ease with. And so yesterday I was like trying to figure out, okay, what would it take to do a podcast, like following Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn, and like, somebody was recommending different types of microphones. So I think I'll get there, like, videos do take a lot of data. No, it's true. And so I think I need to start, so I'm going to figure out how to develop the audio. And I think there's a new app called Anchor that also does audio that's more like this format instead of podcasts. So stay tuned. But video, like, my phone dies every time I do video. So I will be exploring that, because I think people do like podcasts a lot more. And I can actually be recording this on audio. So I'm looking into that. So I'm going to be investing in some podcasting equipment and just kind of setting up. So it's something that I learned, right? Like, so the effort that I do is like, I don't know anything about this world of digital and passive income and podcasting, but I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to try it. So I will, it's on my list. And like I said, I have my microphone already picked out, and then I need to figure out, I have a Mac, so hopefully I can do the software and either a podcast or through Anchor. So stay tuned, and then follow me. You can follow me on Twitter. And if you have any questions specifically to you, you can find me on Snapchat. I'm happy to answer people's questions. And again, share any knowledge that I have to help people get ahead in life when it comes to money. Okay. Thank you for joining and for the suggestion on podcast. I'm right there with you. I just got to figure out how to do it and be able to deliver on it. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of the weekend. See you tomorrow at 10 a.m. if you want to join. Bye.